effortless, perfect, then a single leap, too fast, too far, a tiny hesitation, one note lands late. And suddenly, everything begins to fall apart. The rhythm shifts, the balance breaks, the control is gone. This is not a beginner mistake. This is what happens when even the best pianists attempt Scarbo by Maurice Ravel, a piece where perfection does not exist. Every bar is packed with slurred 16th note lines, stacked in both hands, never letting up. There is no empty space, no rest, no pause, no slack. The left hand churns out a constant tremolo, while the right hand weaves a separate line above. Both voices locked together, but never truly blending. Each layer demands its own clarity. Each voice must be projected, separated, yet balanced in a single, unbroken stream. This is not just about speed. The average density hovers near 10 notes per second, but in the densest passages, bars 30 to 38, 85 to 92, 127 to 134, the rate surges above 13 notes per second. In those moments, the pianist is forced to maintain 4, sometimes 5 independent voices at once. Nothing is redundant. Every note, every inner line is exposed. Any collision between voices, one finger landing a fraction late, a slur swallowed by the surrounding texture, immediately unravels the balance. The score's phrasing slurs and overlapping lines remove any safety net, stripping away the redundancy that lets most music absorb tiny errors. At this level, the problem is not playing fast, it is sustaining perfection when there is nowhere to hide. Scarbo does not punish mistakes, it multiplies them. The structure itself builds collapse into the texture. Even the best pianists are forced to manage the fallout, not erase it. In Scarbo, perfection is not expected. It is impossible. Maurice Ravel imagined Scarbo as a piano piece that would sound like an orchestra, not just in volume, but in complexity. Every technical challenge in the score is intentional, designed to push the pianist into unfamiliar territory. The dense layering, the lack of clear phrasing, and the constant shifts in texture are not accidents. They are the result of Ravel's precise vision. He removed the usual cues that help pianists recover, overlapping slurs and placing accents in unpredictable places. Even the first Durand edition omits the corrective hints that might offer a lifeline after a mistake. Dr. Robert Orledge, whose study of Ravel's manuscripts and letters has reshaped how Scarbo is understood, notes that the piano is forced to become an orchestra, not just in sound, but in the way the hands must manage independent lines and sudden shifts of colour. Ravel's ambition was to surpass the bravura tradition, outdoing even Balakarev's Islami. But where earlier showpieces relied on spectacle, Ravel's approach is more severe. The pianist must sustain a multi-layered illusion, balancing every voice and transition with no margin for error. Scarbo's architecture is a pressure test. The design ensures that even the smallest slip is exposed, and the possibility of recovery is stripped away. As Dr. Orledge observes, the piece is constructed so that even the most skilled performer is forced to confront their own limits. In Scarbo, density is not just a feeling but a measurable threat. The global average sits near 10 notes per second, but 3 passages, bars 30 to 38, 85 to 92, and 127 to 134, cross the 13 notes per second threshold. In those bars, the pianist is not simply playing fast, they are navigating a field of landmines, where each second contains more than a dozen note attacks, distributed across 4 or 5 independent voices. These are not just clusters, each voice must be articulated, balanced, and projected with no overlap or blur. The structure is mapped for collapse. Within these hyperdense zones, the technical demands spike. The left hand might leap a 13th in a single beat, B flat to E in bar 88, while the right hand crosses over, tracing chromatic lines in the bass clef. In bars 112 to 119, the hand crossing reaches nearly 1 exchange per bar, forcing the pianist to switch registers mid-flight. The risk is not just missing a note, it is losing the thread of the entire texture. Polyrhythmic overlays, 3 against 2, 5 against 4, 7 against 6, pile on so that even the smallest hesitation can send the whole passage into freefall. Over the course of the piece, These eruptions make up less than 10% of the length, but nearly a third of the total notes. The rest is a plateau of relentless tension with no empty space to recover. Scarbo's architecture ensures that the pianist is always one misfire away from unraveling the illusion. At this level, the problem is not playing fast. It is staying perfect when every bar is a test. The piece does not punish mistakes, it multiplies them. Failure is built in. It is not about winning, it is about managing collapse. The human body is not built for Scarbo's demands. Every note is a tightrope walk between intention and physical possibility. Electromyographic studies on elite pianists reveal the truth beneath the surface. Each finger strike triggers a burst of muscle activity lasting only 30 to 45 milliseconds. In Scarbo's densest passages, those bursts must fire and reset faster than the nervous system can consciously track. The left hand's tremolo, the right's racing lines, both are driven by a chain of signals that push the neuromuscular system to its edge. But playing at this speed is not just about fast muscles. Sound itself lags behind action. From hammer to ear, there is a 6 to 8 millisecond delay before the pianist even hears the note. The brain must predict, not react, using a feedback loop that is always one step behind. If a finger lands late, the ear catches up too late to correct it. Each micro delay is amplified by the relentless tempo, feeding a cycle where the next note is already at risk before the last one finishes sounding. Proprioceptive feedback, the sense of where the fingers are in space, lags even further behind, living in a window of 150 to 250 milliseconds. In Scarbo, that is an eternity. The hands must cross, leap, and separate independent voices in less than half that time. A slip in one voice throws off the balance in all the others. Dr. Sian Baylock, whose research measures these latencies in live performance, points to this gap as the fault line. The pianist's brain is forced to guess, not know, where each finger will land. What begins as a single missed millisecond becomes a chain reaction. The structure of Scarbo turns every micro error into a multiplying threat. The performer's adaptation is no longer a choice, it is a necessity. The piece does not punish mistakes, it multiplies them. At this level, perfection is not expected, it is impossible. In the 1970 RCA studio, in the infamous tremolo passage, he lets the trill soften almost imperceptibly, a calculated retreat from the edge. It's not a stumble, but more a moment of surrender, a choice to preserve the musical line rather than risk total collapse. Decades later, Marc-André Hamelin, another giant of the modern stage, sits at the Royal Albert Hall. In the opening bars, his eyes flick to the left hand, checking tempo against the relentless pulse. For a split second, the tempo slackens. The adjustment is subtle but unmistakable, a tactical breath, buying just enough time to realign the hands before the texture thickens again. Neither pianist falters in speed or power. What they do is adapt, softening, stretching, recalibrating in real time. Scarbo doesn't reward bravado. It exposes the line between control and disaster, and even the greatest are forced to negotiate with the impossible. Marc-André Hamelin plays the passage first as written, fast, dense, every note pressed into place. Onset variance jumps with each slip, the timing window is tight, the illusion of control is always at risk.